Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be opposing the chairman's bill today. Just 7 years ago, we suffered through the worst financial crisis in generations. Millions lost their homes, millions lost their jobs, millions lost their retirement savings, and they watched as their government spent hundreds of billions of tax dollars bailing out the biggest financial institutions in this country. Congress passed Dodd-Frank to protect consumers from the kinds of deceptive and abusive practices that created the crisis and to protect taxpayers from having to bail out the big banks again. And in the last 5 years, we have seen evidence that Dodd-Frank is beginning to work. The Consumer Agency has already forced the biggest financial institutions in this country to return over $5 billion to consumers they cheated. The Consumer Agency has also begun cleaning up the market for mortgages, for credit cards, for checking accounts. And the financial system as a whole is safer than it used to be. Banks hold more capital, and our regulators have more tools to help keep the banks in line. But as the chairman said, Dodd-Frank is not perfect. In many areas, it did not go far enough to protect consumers and taxpayers. So as we begin re-examining Dodd-Frank, that should be our focus. How do we strengthen these rules to address the gaps in the regulatory framework? The last thing we should be doing is rolling back the rules and weakening the oversight of some of the biggest banks in this country. The last thing we should be doing is what's in the chairman's bill, making it harder for the Fed to supervise banks with hundreds of billions of dollars in assets, making it easier for the big banks to offer risky mortgages. The chairman's bill is good for giant banks, but it's bad for families and it's dangerous for the economy. While I oppose the chairman's bill, I support Ranking Member Brown's amendment. I have said consistently that Congress can and should provide targeted regulatory relief to small community banks and credit unions. Senator Brown's amendment does exactly that. But if Congress reopens Dodd-Frank to provide regulatory relief for community banks, it must simultaneously strengthen the financial rules to address gaps in the regulatory framework. Senator Brown's amendment does that as well, most notably by giving the Consumer Agency the ability to enforce the Service Member Civil Relief Act. That law protects service members from the abusive financial products that are often targeted at our military men and women. I am proud that the Democrats on this committee are united behind giving the CFPB the tools that it needs to make sure that our men and women serving in the military can't be cheated while they are defending this country. I support the Brown Amendment because it strikes the right balance between responsible regulatory relief for community banks and improving consumer protections. This balance allows us to improve access to credit while ensuring that it is good credit. That should be our goal, and regulatory relief alone does not accomplish that goal. I want to thank the ranking member for his leadership and for working with all the Democrats in this committee to produce a package that we can all support and be proud of. I hope that the 10 of us can remain united behind this package as we move forward in the markup. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.